In this Star Wars Jedi Survivor news update video, I will be sharing with you the patch notes of Patch 9. It has just released. Finally, after many months of being in development, Respawn have published this long-awaited patch, and I have all of the details, including performance comparisons between the last patch and more. But before we do take a look at everything though, make sure you do subscribe to this channel so you won't miss any future news updates on Star Wars Jedi Survivor. So, we haven't had an update to Star Wars Jedi Survivor since January. It has been 9 months, and Respawn have been hard at work on this Patch 9 update since about May is when we first got the indications on SteamDB. And over the past few months, we've had about 30 or so builds uploaded to SteamDB by Respawn. I've been following it, keeping you updated, and it is finally here, just under a week away from the last gen version release of Jedi Survivor. It comes out on Xbox One and PS4 on Tuesday. I will have a video covering how that looks and performs, which will be very interesting indeed. However, we are here to talk about Patch 9, which did release today for PC. Yes, that's right, just PC. As I mentioned in my previous video, it's not an update for PS5 or Xbox Series X or S. There isn't going to be a performance patch for the consoles. However, EA have confirmed that there will be a future patch for PS5 that will add functionality for transferring saves between PS4 and PS5 in anticipation for our upcoming release of PS4, so expect that this week or potentially on Monday. Xbox won't be getting this update because it already supports it. This just had to be done on the PlayStation side because the PlayStation version just did not support it. Speaking of the last gen version, EA have just kickstarted their marketing for Jedi Survivor on last gen. They have uploaded the intro recap of Fallen Order video, which comes on when you first load up Jedi Survivor, onto their YouTube channel, and they are talking about in the description about the last gen version. The download size for this update is 6.4 gigabytes, which is pretty high for one of these bug fixing updates. It just means they've had to change a lot of stuff in the game. However though, I'm a bit disappointed to find out that the download size, the full download size of the game, is still 129 gigabytes. I was hoping with this update, optimization would have been made to the actual files, the compression. We can see it's possible with Star Wars Outlaws. They have the PC version down to less than 60 gigabytes, and it's a humongous game with tons of content and such. It's literally less than half the size of Jedi Survivor, yet it's a completely open world game. Jedi Survivor still has assets from Fallen Order left over. Now, before we take a look at the performance comparisons between Patch 8 and Patch 9, let's go through the entirety of the patch notes. So, performance improvements. They say that the frame rate has been improved for various hardware configurations. They've also made fixes to several sources of frame rate hitching for smoother gameplay. Ray tracing has also been optimised for CPU usage and should now scale better on high-end GPUs. Performance-related fixes have been made when using a mouse as a gameplay input. Onto some quality of life improvements, and the optimising game files screen has been optimised, funnily enough, and can now see speed increases from multiple CPU cores. This optimization screen that has caused us so much grief has actually been completely done away with. It's no longer in the game. The first time you booted up the game, it would actually do something, but from there on after, it was just doing absolutely nothing other than wasting your time. But even upon first boot, it's no longer there in the PC version of the game, and basically what I'm showing you is how the game loaded up for the very first time upon downloading the game. Mouse and keyboard functionality has been improved across a variety of the menu screens, including the first time user screen, title menu, game menu, and workbench. These are the improvements to the controls that Respawn have been mentioning, and as we've known since launch, it's not been a very good menu in Star Wars Jedi Survivor with mouse and keyboard, but these improvements have been made to it, so it's at least the bare minimum. In terms of bug fixes, they have fixed collision issues where players could fall through elevators at low frame rates, as well as a fix for conversation-related crashes when walking away from NPC characters. There is also various intermittent crashes that have been fixed. A big thing that has been removed from the game, which people will be very interested to hear about, is that denuvo DRM has been removed. It's gone. No longer part of the game. Also not written in the patch notes is a small update to DLSS, so the version of DLSS is still 3.1.13. However, frame generation is now 2.10. The team end the patch notes saying, "Thank you to all of our fans that have waited for this update. We are grateful for all of your feedback." They don't end things with confirmation that there will be another patch. Unless there is something severely game-breaking, I doubt there will be another patch for Jedi Survivor. I think this might be it, the end of the road for this game's support, at least on PC and current-gen consoles. Xbox One and PS4 probably will get some patches after launch if anything does need to be done for those versions, but that's it for this version of the game, I think. Now for what we have been waiting for, the performance comparison between Patch 8 and Patch 9. So as always, it's that same Rambler's Reach benchmark where I run from one end to the other to see if it's stuttering to really tax the performance of this game, and this first test will see it running at epic settings with DLSS set to quality, but no ray tracing on or frame generation. You can see here that the game has improved somewhat, it's very minor at least in this test. The frame rate does not go too much higher than before, but it does not dip down as much. I also have ran 3 trials on this, and they were all pretty much the same, although this was the best case scenario. You will notice in this test and the others that the same drops in frame rate happen at the same positions as they did before. I feel like the stuttering has gotten a bit better. The hitches are less, but they are still there to some extent. At least it's far less noticeable because the frame rates don't drop as low as before in certain areas. The lowest FPS I got in this new run was 96 for a split moment, whereas in the previous run it did drop down to as low as, say, 70-ish. Now for a quick look at a test with frame gen on but no ray tracing, and as you can see, the various areas where you'd expect frame drops are still there, but they don't go as low as before, so it's a bit more smoother in that sense. I will also say a common theme is that GPU usage is a little bit higher compared to before during these new tests. I would say the biggest improvement comes when using ray tracing. The FPS in this run did not drop below 60 frames per second, which previously it was in and around 60 with some significant drops down to the 40s. It actually spends most of its time above 70 now, sometimes even reaching 80 at times, so in less demanding areas you can expect this game to run a lot better with ray tracing. It already does in this benchmark, so this is fantastic news because ray tracing just had to be turned off before, although of course I am using a 4080 Super, so your mileage may vary. Now for ray tracing on alongside frame generation. I don't have an actual comparison to use from the previous patch, unfortunately that footage is corrupt, but from my recollection it is a little bit better, much like the previous frame generation one without ray tracing. It doesn't drop as low, but it doesn't go much higher. There is still room for improvement, and it is a shame that the game released in a state that it did all the way back last April. But we are finally at a point at least on high-end hardware, it's fine. Still not good enough in my opinion, but improvement has been made at least. Significant improvement that we have not really seen over the past few patches. Although I'm just speaking from my experience, I don't know how well the game is going to be on lower-end hardware. As I said in the patch notes, one of the issues was higher-end hardware was actually being hurt because it was high-end hardware, which typically should not happen with games. One thing I did want to mention is that I know some people, and myself included, had a bunch of issues with the holo map having real bad frame rate issues. Well, on my end, those are gone. It's no longer running at like 10 FPS. However, I have heard some people on Reddit say the issue is still present. I'd love to hear your thoughts on anything I've talked about in this video, so please do let me know down below in the comment section. Also, if you do download this update, I would love to hear your experience with this update. Has it gotten any better for you? So do let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please do drop a like, subscribe so you don't miss any future Star Wars Jedi Survivor videos, including that last gen version video. And if you did miss any of my previous videos, click on the playlist on the screen right now, and I shall see you in my next video.